Warner Brothers' Agnes Moorehead and Johnny Belinda, J. Arthur's Rank 2 Cities, and British Claire Trevor in Keo Warab. The winner is Claire Trevor. In 1987, a mysterious letter was found in Claire Trevor's dressing room. It contained secrets about her violent fights with Humphrey Bogart in Hollywood's darkest days, an affair that ended in tragedy, and a shocking feud that almost ended her career. Today, we're finally revealing it's possible that Claire Trevor was born in 1909, but records show that she was born Claire Wemlinger on March 8, 1910. She was the only child of Noel Wemlinger and Benjamina Edith Morrison. Her father was French and worked as a merchant tailor on Fifth Avenue, and her mother was Irish and born in Belfast in 1877. Benjamina came to the United States with her family in 1891 and later trained as a dressmaker. She married Noel in 1902, and 8 years later they had a daughter named Cla. Trevor grew up in Brooklyn's Bensonhurst neighborhood, where her father brought French refinement and her mother brought a sharp Irish wit. These two cultures shaped her personality and later helped her add depth to her acting. She was interested in the arts from a young age and loved acting in school and church plays, but at first she wanted to be a painter instead. When her father's tailoring business did well and the family's finances got better, they moved to Larchmont, New York, an affluent suburb in Westchester County. The new place gave her better educational opportunities and a more comfortable life. But it didn't change how down-to-earth she was. She stayed the same, which made her popular with her classmates and fans. At Morone High School, Trevor acted in school plays for fun. In 1928, she entered a speaking contest and won $15, which wasn't much, but it gave her confidence. After graduating, she went to Columbia University to study painting. Still thinking that art would be her future, the more time she spent around the arts, the more she realized that her true passion wasn't on canvas, but on stage. With the support of friends and mentors who saw her potential, Trevor decided to become an actress. She left Columbia and went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City, where she worked on her diction and memory, skills that would help her later in her career. But she didn't stay long. After 6 months, she quit, because she decided that experience would teach her instead of going to school. She quit and joined stock theater companies to learn by doing. Her first professional stage roles were with Robert Henderson's Repertory Players at the Theater Festival in Ann Arbor, Michigan. In 1929, she played Antigone, a part in Lady Windermere's Fan, and a part in Chekhov's The Seagull. These early performances gave her valuable experience in front of an audience. By 1931, she had moved on to the Hampton Players in Southampton, Long Island, where she made $5 a week plus tips. Claire Trevor's rise to fame began on Broadway in 1932 with Whistling in the Dark, a comedic thriller that opened on January 19 at the Ethel Barrymore Theater in New York and ran for a year before going on a national tour. The cast split the small amount of money that was made, but she didn't mind. She later said it was one of the happiest times of her life. The small theater company gave her the chance to play different roles and learn from other actors. Critics praised her ability to hold her own against more experienced actors in this role, which not only showed how talented she was, but also paved the way for what would come before she got to Broadway. Trevor had already spent years training. She worked in stock theaters and went to Columbia University and the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. But when Whistling in the Dark came to Los Angeles, Hollywood scouts took notice. Trevor loved the stage and didn't want to leave it, but the Great Depression made it impossible. In 1933, she signed a 5-year deal with Fox Studios, which was the start of a film career that would last over 70 years. Her Hollywood debut was quick. She played Sally Inners in Jimmy and Sally, a pre-code comedy drama produced by Fox Studios. She was brought in to replace Inners, but she made the role her own. The film, directed by James Tinling, was about the complicated relationship between a self-centered publicist and his loyal secretary. Trevor's performance stood out for its naturally charming and emotional depth. From then on, her career took off. From 1933 to 1938, she was in 29 movies, many of which were low-budget B-movies, but Trevor always stood out. Her husky voice and expressive acting style made her unforgettable. She wasn't just another newcomer to Hollywood, she was a presence on screen. Then, in 1937, a film directed by William Weir, based on a Broadway play and set in the slums of New York, Trevor played Francie, a desperate woman who turned to prostitution. She was only on screen for 5 minutes, but her performance was so powerful that it made an impact. In one of the movie's most heartbreaking scenes, she meets Humphrey Bogart's character again, but is turned down because of what she had become. People could feel her pain even though she was only on screen for 5 minutes. Her performance earned her a nomination for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, received 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture for Trevor. This changed everything for her. She was no longer just a reliable actress in B-movies. She had shown she could give award-worthy performances even in small but powerful roles. This led to more work with major directors and actors, including several movies with Bogart. Claire Trevor's rise to fame began with Stagecoach in 1939, where she played Dallas, a dancehall girl rejected by society but full of depth. Hollywood tended to give one-dimensional women like her one-dimensional roles, but Trevor gave Dallas dignity. Her performance made the character feel real, not just a side note in John Wayne's story. Their relationship added emotional weight to the movie, making Stagecoach more than just an action-packed western. John Ford directed it, and it changed the genre forever. It was gritty, fast-paced, and visually striking. Orson Welles studied it, watching it over 40 times while preparing for Citizen Kane. Trevor's name appeared in the movie. Trevor was credited above John Wayne's name in the credits, which shows how well-liked she was in Hollywood by 1939. The film's success launched both of their careers, showing that Trevor could hold her own as a leading lady. While her film career took off, Trevor found another way to stay in the spotlight. In the late 1930s, she became a regular on radio, starring in shows like Big Town and The Old Gold Don't Amshi Show. At the time, radio was the most popular form of entertainment, and these roles kept her voice in millions of homes. On Big Town, she played Lorelei Kilbourne. The show was one of the most popular dramas of its time because of her chemistry with Edward G. Robinson. On The Old Gold Don Amici Show, she performed in adaptations of plays by Mark Hellinger, showing off her dramatic range. By the 1940s, Hollywood was changing. Film noir was on the rise, and Trevor was a perfect fit for her because she had the screen presence, voice, and ability to play women who were both vulnerable and dangerous. In Street of Chance 1942, she played Ruth Dillon, a female fatal. It wasn't her most famous role, but it showed people the side of her that would shape the next part of her career. Her big break in noir came with 1944's Murder My Sweet, where she played Helen Grail, a beautiful but manipulative woman opposite Dick Powell's Philip Marlowe. The movie, which was based on Raymond Chandler's Farewell My Lovely, became a classic in the genre. Trevor's character was beautiful but cruel, and she played her with an icy charm that made her seem real. Her unforgettable performance earned her the title Queen of Noir, and she went on to star in several more crime dramas, each one showing that she could control the screen with a single look. Then came Key Largo in 1948, directed by John Huston and starring Humphrey Bogart and Edward G. Robinson. It was one of the most important movies of the noir era, and Trevor played Gay Dawn, a former nightclub singer who was stuck in an abusive relationship with Robinson's gangster. Johnny Rocco forced Gay to sing low numbers in exchange for a drink. She tried, but her voice broke from desperation. The scene was painful to watch, which is why Huston filmed it without any rehearsals, to make sure it felt real. Trevor's performance in that scene was unforgettable, and it cemented her place in Hollywood history. By the 1950s, Trevor had starred in all of her movies. Radio westerns that were ahead of their time became legends in movies and on radio. However, Hollywood had a habit of stereotyping her as hard-boiled blondes and dangerous women, even though she came from a wealthy and cultured background. Instead of fighting this, Trevor leaned into those roles and gave them layers that made them unforgettable. She once said that acting was just a job for her, but her performances told a different story. She made even the most cynical characters feel human by giving them depth that kept fans interested. Claire Trevor's career took a new direction in the 1950s when she moved into television, showing that she could work in any medium. In 1956, she won an Emmy for her performance in Dodsworth, a live television adaptation of Sinclair Lewis's novel. She played Fran Dodsworth, the haughty wife of the main character, Frederick March. The show aired as part of NBC's Producers Showcase, a show known for bringing Broadway staple performances to TV. Trevor's ability to give a complex and emotional performance in real time impressed both viewers and critics. Winning the Emmy for Best Live Television Performance by an Actress was a huge accomplishment. It showed she could handle the pressure of live drama just as well as she had mastered film. Today, both her Emmy and her Academy Award for Key Largo 1948 are displayed at the Claire Trevor School of the Arts at the University of California, Irvine, as a reminder of her great work. Trevor was in some of the most popular TV shows of the time, including Playhouse 90, one of the most prestigious anthology shows of all time, and episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, where her intensity added to the suspense. She also played a Western character in Wagon Train, going back to the genre that had shaped her early film career. For an actress known for playing tough, smart women in film noir, television gave her the chance to try out different types of roles. In 1959, she had a chance to show she had even more range when she played one of the scariest roles of her career in Ma Barker's Killer Brood. She played the notorious crime matriarch Ma Barker, a woman who sent her sons on a violent crime spree in the 1930s. Historians are still arguing about how much control the real Ma Barker actually had over her sons, but the movie played her as a cruel mastermind, a mother and a killer. Her performance was intense and theatrical. It was a risky choice for an actress who had already shown she could take over the screen in any role, even when she played a less important part. In later years, Trevor never really left the business. She was a guest star on Murder, She Wrote, sharing scenes with Angela Lansbury in one of TV's most popular mystery shows. Her last movie role was as Charlotte in Kiss Me Goodbye, a romantic comedy starring Sally Field, James Harrison, and Jeff Bridges that came out in 1982. The show got mixed reviews, but it was a fitting end to a career that had lasted more than 50 years. Claire Trevor's life was full of love, loss, and strength. She married 3 times, and each marriage changed a different part of her journey. Her first husband, Clark Andrews, was the producer and director of her radio show. They married in 1938, but after 4 years of problems caused by work and personal differences, they divorced in 1942. In 1943, Trevor married Navy Lieutenant. In that same year she gave birth to her only child, Charles Dunmore Bren. Becoming a mother was one of the best things in her life, but the marriage didn't last. By 1947, she and Dunmore were divorced, but Charles stayed the center of her life. The next year, she married Hollywood producer Milton Bren. This was the marriage that really worked, and it brought her stability and happiness for over 30 years. Milton had 2 sons from a previous marriage, Donald and Peter Bren. Donald later became a billionaire real estate developer, but in their home, family always came before fame or money. Trevor and Milton lived in Newport Beach, where they built a life that was both glamorous and based on love and friendship. Then, on September 25, 1978, an unimaginable tragedy happened. Her son Charles was on PSA Flight 182 when it crashed into a Cessna over San Diego, killing all 137 people on board and 7 people on the ground. Trevor was heartbroken. Charles had taken Milton's last name, and the bond between them was very strong. Just over a year later, in 1979, Milton Bren died of a brain tumor, leaving her devastated. She had lost both her son and her husband in such a short amount of time. After Milton's death, she found it hard to stay in Newport Beach. She once said it was a place for couples and not for her. In 1980, she sold her home and moved back to New York City, hoping to find comfort in the city where she had grown up. Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, and her reputation as the queen of film noir. She had a way of playing characters who were both tough and vulnerable, leaving a lasting impression on audiences even in her later years. She carried herself with grace, and even though she lived a quieter life, the industry had not forgotten about her. After leaving Hollywood, Trevor found peace in Newport Beach, California. She painted, traveled, and did a lot of volunteer work. Her biggest passion was helping others. She became very close with the School of the Arts at the University of California, Irvine, which was later renamed the Claire Trevor School of the Arts in her honor. She visited often to help students with their work and to watch rehearsals. She always encouraged creativity because she believed that the arts were more than just a job. They could change people's lives. She even gave her Oscar and Emmy Awards to the school, where they are still on display as a tribute to her legacy. Claire Trevor died on April 8, 2000, at the age of 90. She had respiratory failure and had just celebrated her birthday a month before. Her death was one of Hollywood's last links to the Golden Age. Her stepson Donald Bren called her a special woman, whose lifelong goal was to make other people happy. But her later years were not all joy. In 1978, she lost her only son Charles in a tragic plane crash, and just a year later, her husband Milton Bren died. These losses were hard on her, but she stayed strong by focusing on the causes she cared about. Her legacy will not be forgotten. Her name lives on through the Claire Trevor School of the Arts, and her performances are still studied and admired. She may have left the stage, but her influence on film and education lives on.